At 0847 hours on February 28, 2022, a satellite sensor orbiting 500 kilometers above the Earth captured an image that would define the opening phase of the largest land war in Europe since 1945. Stretching along the P-02 highway from the Belarusian border toward the outskirts of Kyiv was a mechanized column of Russian heavy armor spanning exactly 40 miles. This massive formation, consisting of roughly 15,000 troops and over 2,000 vehicles, was intended to be the hammer blow that would shatter Ukrainian resistance and seize the capital within 72 hours. But as the lead elements of the 35th Combined Arms Army reached the town of Kyiv, the math of mechanized warfare began to turn against Moscow in a way their planners never anticipated. The column represented a concentrated mass of roughly 64 kilometers of steel, rubber, and high explosives, but it was also a 40-mile-long liability with a fuel consumption rate that exceeded 10,000 gallons per hour just to maintain idle. Inside the Kremlin, the assumption was a three-day victory, but on the frozen asphalt of northern Ukraine, the reality was a logistical death trap being set by a handful of specialized defenders. The backbone of this massive invasion force relied on the KAMAZ 4 3114 and Ural 4320 series of logistics trucks, vehicles designed for the rugged terrain of the Siberian steppe, but now failing on the muddy shoulders of the Ukrainian countryside. Each of these trucks features a turbo diesel engine generating roughly 240 horsepower, but their effectiveness is entirely dependent on a complex system of tire pressure regulation and high-quality rubber compounds. Ukrainian intelligence had noted that many of these vehicles were equipped with cheap, poorly maintained tires that had spent years rotting in open-air storage depots. As the convoy faced heavy congestion and was forced to maneuver onto the soft, waterlogged soil known as Rasputitsa, the sidewalls of these tires began to disintegrate under the sheer weight of 60 to 70 tons of equipment. This mechanical failure created a cascading effect where a single stalled truck could block an entire battalion's worth of progress, effectively turning the world's second most powerful military into a 40-mile-long stationary target. The Russians had prepared for a lightning strike, but they had fundamentally failed to account for the physics of friction and the structural integrity of 20-year-old vulcanized rubber. By the morning of March 1, 2022, the situation inside the column had transitioned from a tactical delay to a full-blown humanitarian crisis for the Russian soldiers trapped within it. Intelligence reports and intercepted communications revealed that most units had been deployed with only 3 days of food and water, based on the delusional assumption that the capital would fall before their first resupply was even necessary. As the temperature plummeted to -5 degrees Celsius, the Russian troops found themselves trapped in steel coffins without the fuel required to run their heaters. A standard T-800 BVM tank consumes roughly 4 to 5 liters of fuel per mile while moving. But even at a standstill, its gas turbine engine requires a constant flow of fuel to maintain electronic systems. With the supply lines at the rear of the 40-mile column failing to push through the congestion, the frontline units were forced to choose between freezing in the dark or abandoning their multi-million-dollar vehicles to forage for food in hostile local villages. This was the moment the Second Army in the world began to realize that their logistics were not just a weakness, but a catastrophic systemic failure that no amount of heavy artillery could solve. While the Russian commanders struggled with their internal failures, a specialized Ukrainian unit known as Aerorozvidka was preparing to turn the static column into a graveyard. This unit, consisting of only 30 soldiers and tech-savvy volunteers, specialized in night operations using modified commercial drones and custom-built octocopters. Operating from the cover of the dense forests surrounding Bucha and Irpin, these operators utilized quad bikes to maintain high mobility, allowing them to strike and vanish before the Russians could even identify the direction of the attack. Their primary weapon was the R-18 octocopter, a heavy-lift drone capable of carrying 2 RKG-3EM anti-tank grenades modified with 3D printed tail fins for vertical dropping. Each of these grenades contains a shaped charge warhead capable of penetrating 220 millimeters of steel armor, which is more than enough to breach the thin top-deck plating of a Russian supply truck or even a main battle tank. The Aerorozvidka teams didn't just target random vehicles. They performed a forensic analysis of the column to identify the most critical nodes, specifically focusing on the lead vehicles and the fuel tankers that were the lifeblood of the entire mechanized formation. At 02:15 hours on March 2nd, the first precision strikes began near the head of the convoy. Moving silently through the forest on their electric quad bikes, The Ukrainian operators deployed their drones under the cover of complete darkness, utilizing thermal imaging sensors that could detect the heat signatures of Russian engines from over 2 kilometers away. The thermal feeds showed the Russian vehicles as bright white blooms against the cold blue background of the forest, making target acquisition almost effortless for the experienced pilots. The first RKG-3 grenade struck the lead Kamaz fuel truck with mathematical precision, the shaped charge jet traveling at over 25,000 feet per second to ignite the thousands of gallons of diesel fuel within. The resulting explosion didn't just destroy the vehicle, it created a physical barrier of burning wreckage that effectively capped the northern end of the road. With the front of the 40-mile column now paralyzed, the Russian forces were forced into a state of tactical claustrophobia, unable to move forward and increasingly vulnerable to the precision strikes that were now beginning to systematically pick apart their rearguard elements as well. The air above the frozen highway was also contested by the Bayraktar TB2, a Turkish-built medium-altitude, long-endurance drone that became the unexpected symbol of Ukrainian resistance during these critical days. The TB2 features a 12-meter wingspan and is powered by a 100-horsepower Rotax 912 IS engine, allowing it to loiter at altitudes of up to 18,000 feet for over 24 hours. More importantly, it is equipped with the Westcam MX-15D electro-optical and infrared imaging system, providing the operators with a high-definition view of the entire 40-mile trap. From their control stations hundreds of kilometers away, the Ukrainian pilots utilized MAML laser-guided smart munitions, which weigh only 22 kilograms but pack a punch capable of obliterating a Bucha M2 air defense system or a command and control vehicle. Each MAML bomb utilizes a high-explosive fragmentation or armor-piercing warhead, guided by a semi-active laser seeker that ensures a circular error probable of less than 3 meters. These strikes were not just about physical destruction, they were about psychological warfare, proving to the Russian leadership that their massive armored fist was entirely transparent to modern precision sensors. The geography of the region played a decisive role in tightening the 40-mile trap around the Russian forces. The P02 highway is bordered by dense forests and the Irpin River, creating a natural funnel that limits any large-scale maneuvering off the main road. Russian doctrine typically relies on wide front advances, but the soft soil and the destruction of the Irpin Bridge by Ukrainian engineers forced the entire 35th Army into a single-file line of death. When the Russian engineers attempted to deploy pontoon bridges to bypass the destroyed crossings, they found themselves under constant surveillance by Ukrainian partisan spotters equipped with encrypted smartphones. These ordinary civilians provided real-time coordinates to Ukrainian artillery units, who utilized Soviet-era D-30 howitzers and modern Grad multiple-launch rocket systems to rain fire on the bridgehead attempts. The math was simple, but brutal. For every bridge the Russians tried to build, the Ukrainians had already pre-calculated the firing solution for their 122mm shells, ensuring that no vehicle would ever cross the river to threaten the heart of Kyiv. Inside the command centers of the Russian forces, the operational failure was compounding by the hour as the communication systems began to break down. The Russians had heavily invested in the Azart digital radio system, which was supposed to provide secure, encrypted communications across the entire theater of operations. However, due to a lack of sufficient infrastructure and poor training, many units found that their expensive digital radios couldn't connect over the distances required for a 40-mile column. In a desperate attempt to maintain command, Russian officers began utilizing unencrypted civilian-grade radios and even local mobile networks, which the Ukrainian signals intelligence units were all too happy to monitor. This allowed the defenders to identify the exact location of high-value targets, including generals and senior colonels who were forced to move toward the front of the congestion to resolve the traffic jams personally. The result was a devastating loss of leadership, as Ukrainian snipers and drone teams utilized this intelligence to eliminate the very people who were supposed to be fixing the logistical nightmare, leaving the rank-and-file soldiers without direction in the middle of a frozen wasteland. By March 4th, the 40-mile column had effectively ceased to be a functioning military unit and had instead become a massive, linear warehouse of abandoned equipment. Satellite imagery showed thousands of vehicles parked bumper to bumper, with many troops now visible outside their tanks, huddling around open fires made from scavenged wood and debris. The elite 4th Guards Tank Division, which was supposed to lead the assault on the city center, was instead reduced to guarding empty fuel trucks and hoping for a resupply that would never arrive. The Ukrainian defense had successfully frozen the invasion in place, not through a massive counteroffensive, but through the surgical application of logistics as a weapon of war. They had identified the three pillars of modern mechanized warfare: fuel, food, and movement, and systematically kicked them out from under the Russian army. The 40-mile traffic jam was the first undeniable visual proof that the supposedly invincible Russian military was built on a foundation of systemic corruption and operational incompetence that could be dismantled by a few dozen operators on quad bikes. The economic cost of this single operational failure was staggering, with analysts estimating the loss of equipment and fuel to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. But the true price was paid in the loss of strategic momentum, as the world watched the superpower narrative of the Russian Federation dissolve in real time on social media. Each destroyed tank, worth over $3 million, was being filmed by local teenagers on their phones and uploaded to the internet before the smoke had even cleared. This transparency created a global shift in perception, as Western nations saw that Ukraine wasn't just surviving, but was actively humiliating the invaders through superior tactical flexibility and technological integration. The 40-mile trap was more than just a military victory. It was a proof of concept for a new way of fighting, where small, decentralized units utilizing high-tech sensors could paralyze a massive, centralized force that was still operating on 20th century doctrine. As the sun set on March 5th, the frozen army north of Kyiv was no longer an invasion force. It was a warning to any nation that believes sheer mass can overcome the precision and determination of a modern defender. As the sun rose on March 5, 2022, the 40-mile column had transitioned from a logistical headache into a full-scale mechanical cardiac arrest. The sheer density of the vehicles meant that the heat signatures detected by Ukrainian sensors were no longer individual trucks, but a continuous, pulsing ribbon of infrared energy stretching through the northern forests. A critical but often ignored factor in this stagnation was the physical chemistry of diesel fuel in sub-zero temperatures. Russian military-grade diesel is treated with additives to prevent waxing, but when an engine idles for 72 consecutive hours, carbon deposits begin to choke the fuel injectors and exhaust manifolds. The T-72B3 tanks, which form the iron core of the Russian armored spearhead, utilize the V92S2F diesel engine, a 12-cylinder beast that generates 1,130 horsepower. However, at a standstill in -5-degree weather, these engines become massive heat sinks that drain the vehicle's batteries and consume fuel at a rate of roughly 10 gallons per hour just to keep the crew from freezing. The paralysis of the column reached its terminal phase in the narrow residential streets of Bucha and Irpin, where the geography of the Kyiv suburbs acted as a high-pressure valve that simply refused to open. On Vokzalna Street in Bucha, a single Ukrainian ambush transformed a tactical advance into a graveyard of scorched aluminum and twisted steel. Utilizing the British-made NLAW, or next-generation light anti-tank weapon, Ukrainian defenders engaged the column from the upper floors of apartment buildings at ranges of less than 100 meters. The NLAW's overfly top attack mode uses a magnetic sensor to detect the mass of a tank, detonating its shaped charge warhead directly over the thin roof armor. This creates a vertical jet of molten copper that bypasses the explosive reactive armor blocks on the tank's sides. In a matter of minutes, the lead 30 vehicles of a Russian VDV airborne unit were reduced to smoldering husks, physically blocking the road and trapping hundreds of following vehicles in a kill zone that was only 10 meters wide. While the kinetic strikes captured the headlines, the silent killer of the 40-mile column was the phenomenon known as Rasputitsa, or the season of the mud. As the spring thaw began to saturate the Ukrainian soil, the moisture content in the earth increased to over 40%, turning the seemingly solid fields into a viscous, non-Newtonian fluid. The Russian heavy equipment, particularly the mechanized, self-propelled howitzers weighing over 42 tons, exerts a ground pressure that far exceeds the load-bearing capacity of waterlogged silt. When a driver attempted to steer off the paved P02 highway to bypass a wreck, the massive tracks would instantly dig into the mire, burying the vehicle up to its chassis. Intercepted radio traffic revealed that Russian recovery crews were overwhelmed, with the heavy-duty BREM, one armored recovery vehicles themselves becoming stuck while trying to winching out stranded tanks. This created a geometric nightmare where the only path forward was a single strip of asphalt already choked with the debris of previous failed attempts. The technological disparity within the column was further highlighted by the complete failure of Russian electronic warfare units to suppress the Ukrainian drone artillery loop. On paper, the Russian Krasuka 4 system is designed to jam satellite signals and drone control frequencies across a 300-kilometer radius. However, the decentralized nature of the Ukrainian defense meant that for every frequency the Russians jammed, the defenders simply switched to another off-the-shelf commercial band or utilized hardwired landlines for communication. The Ukrainian operators used the GIS ARTA software, often described as an Uber for artillery, which processed target coordinates from drones and partisans in less than 30 seconds. This digital ecosystem allowed a single D-30 howitzer battery, located 15 kilometers away, to receive a precise GPS coordinate, fire a 122mm shell, and adjust its aim based on real-time drone feedback. The Russian troops, sitting in their 40-mile traffic jam, had no way to counter this invisible, high-speed kill chain that treated their massive formation like a target on a firing range. By the end of the first week of March, the human element of the Russian invasion force began to disintegrate under the weight of logistical neglect. Intercepted phone calls home revealed soldiers who had not eaten a hot meal in 5 days and were forced to drink radiator water or melt snow to survive. The standard Russian individual first aid kits and field rations, many of which were discovered to have expired in 2015, provided no protection against the creeping onset of trench foot and hypothermia. This physical decay led to a widespread abandonment of high-value military assets, as crews simply walked away from their vehicles in search of warmth and food. The strategic cost of the 40-mile failure was felt far beyond the outskirts of Kyiv, as it forced a total recalibration of the Kremlin's war aims. The original plan to seize the capital and install a puppet government had been predicated on the speed of the mechanized advance, but the column's collapse meant that the window of opportunity had slammed shut. Every hour the column sat stationary, the Ukrainian government was able to receive more Western shipments of Javelin missiles and Starlink terminals, further hardening the defenses. The economic math was a disaster for Moscow. They had committed roughly 30% of their total combat-ready ground forces to a single axis of attack, only to have them neutralized by a force that cost less than 1% of their annual defense budget. The 40-mile trap demonstrated that in the era of high-definition satellite surveillance and precision-guided man-portable weapons, massed armor is not a guarantee of victory, but a massive logistical target that requires a level of organizational competence the Russian military simply did not possess.